Right, we have got a very special coffee chat with water chat. Because we always say on our coffee chats, we never have water. She's got
I've got my toilet paper in my nose.
Yeah, so of course I'm here with the lovely Brice from Esoteric Atlanta, and we've invited one of our other very special friends, Jay, today. But before we start talking, I must say we've got some other special guests in the background. So I have got Mossy Flop, Lucy Bronze, Alicia Russo, and Ella Toon. Anyone who's into the football and the England World Cup team, you'll know why. They're my guinea pigs that I'm introducing. So if you hear squeaking and rustling, it's unlikely to be Brice or Jay. It's likely to be the guinea pigs. Do not panic.
That's good.
Before we start into today's topic, how are you both? How are things in both your line? Let's go with ladies first.
Really good. Jay and I had an awesome video that released on my channel yesterday, where we were kind of going to be piggyback onto that today. So really, really good. It's awesome to have a lot of people in your life that are ready to take action instead of just sit around and wait for someone to take action for them. So I'm in a really good place. How about you guys?
Yeah, how you doing today?
I love it. I'm so, it's an amazing place to be, because then you start to find your vibrational match, right? And then you find your vibrational match, things just move. The things that normally are bothering people just don't bother us as much, because we're finding our soul cluster, if you would, so this is pretty cool. Like this is amazing. I love it. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, so we're going to just have a really good discussion between ourselves that we really hope you'll interact with in the comments below, because one of the things I wanted to put, and unfortunately I couldn't bring it up on the screen, but it was a quote from one of my favorite at the moment, Alex Hormozy. And his quote is, there go the guinea pigs, is, rather than picking up your next book, take action on your last book. And the reason I thought this led on so nicely from the discussion you two had yesterday is, at the moment, it's very easy for people to get overwhelmed with information. And of course, self-work, understanding how the world works better, knowing what's going on so you can make better decisions is really important. But you've got to balance it with inspired action, haven't you? So let's kick off with that one.
Absolutely. I was saying to you guys, like, I love, everybody knows I love Marnie Alton. I think she's just a brilliant bar teacher, because she obviously incorporates a lot of the spiritual principles within her workouts. And I was doing a class the other day, and she says the greatest things. And she basically said in the class, if you don't like the way the story ended, change it.
Yeah.
Change it. And I think what happens sometimes is, and Jay, we kind of touched on this a little bit, there's this idea of like expectation versus reality. And I think sometimes we go on a path and we have this expectation, and instead of being open to the fact that that might not be the reality, when it's not the reality, we back up and try to run away, or instead of actually flowing with what else is being presented to us. And that is definitely the opportunity that I've seen on YouTube. When I first started my channel, as I said with Jay, I never thought I would be sitting here with you guys. I thought I was just going to be doing deep dives. Like, I had no idea, but because I kept saying yes to opportunities, because I kept saying yes, all of a sudden this whole new world opened up that I wasn't even expecting, and it's been way better than I could have expected. And I also think too, another quote that's kind of coming to mind right now that I've said before, and I think this is kind of more indicative of where we live in our timeline, because we have social media, we have fast access to stuff. We've forgotten, and my friend Cindy and I spoke about this yesterday, which that show will air today. We're oftentimes unintentionally comparing our chapter 1s to somebody else's chapter 10. Where I think people before us, from generations before us, understood that there was a journey, there was a process to happen, that someone doesn't become a master of something just because they decide they want to try it. There's a process to going through the steps. And so, speaking of books, like, you have to ask yourself, are you comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10? And if so, why can't you be a beginner? Why can't you just start at the starting point and see for you where it goes, and what will turn up for you, instead of just throwing the book away and wanting to start somewhere else where you think you can jump to a chapter? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Look, I know, like, for me, like, how I apply things and how I've learned is as I go. So if I want to do something, I this is my personality, as I just don't say, well, let me take in everything I need to know about it and then I go. I go, and then when I hit a level where I can't go any further, I research. I get it. I go. It's all a simultaneous event. I get a lot of, especially being in business and in sales, you get a lot of, well, let me do my research. Let me do my homework. Let me ponder over it. I mean, these things are really just, again, there's just a lot of information. And then, you get this something called the internet on there that has an endless realm of information where you can tap into, which is going to really confuse people a lot of times. So I think a lot of these things hold people back, but I think it also keeps them in some capacity in a safe place, because it gives them another excuse not to start, not to kind of not to hit the go button. And I think if they can, people will say, if they've got an idea that keeps showing up, keep it showing up, start taking the step. And then when you take the step, my experience is that people come in your life to show you what the next step's going to be, literally. And it could be in that very moment. I'm like, oh, I'm stuck here. Okay, there you go. Oh, that was it. You know what I mean? And you're literally doing like this versus just sitting, curling up and doing nothing. And I understand and this is not about the concept of reading, because I understand reading is very therapeutic and getting knowledge is that. I'm talking about it in terms of like taking action on something, taking action on something, really doing something for yourself, doing something for your life. Action is really, it's what spurs the universe. It gets it gets that wheel spinning. If you don't have it, nothing spins, nothing can come to you.
Without action, there's death.
Yeah,
death
I absolutely love it. Oh, sorry, we've got a delay here, so we're going to be talking over each other. Go for it, Brice.
Well, I was just saying, death is the opposite of action. If there's no evolution, if there's no movement, then there's death. And I agree with, it's so interesting you're saying that Jay, and I'm thinking back in my life, because I know we were texting kind of about some of this stuff. You're right. Like, I think about even my journey through yoga. When I first started practicing yoga, taking classes, I didn't even know what the different lineages. I'll tell you guys a funny, I was actually in London. And this is back before we had DVDs. This was before the internet. And I had taken a yoga class. It was just a simple, very contemporary yoga class, and I felt so good that I went to the big what we call back then a record store that had like VHS's tapes, right? Because we didn't have DVDs yet. And I went into this store, and I had no idea who any yoga teachers were, didn't know anything. But who I did know? I knew who Jerry Hollowell was for our Holloway, whatever, the Spice Girls.
Well,
the redheaded one. I knew who she was, and she had a yoga video. So I bought that yoga video because I knew who she was. Now, all these years later, I'm the only female in the state of Georgia to be authorized from India in this particular traditional lineage of yoga. So you look at point A, again, that's comparing someone's chapter 1. That was my chapter 1. All the way to now, I'm at chapter 10. And the twists and turns in that moment when I was buying that VHS, I had no idea that I was going to end up in India. I had no idea that's where this journey was going to take me. And I think what's right, and I think you're also hitting on something too, Jay, is that people, we as human beings, we tend to want to fight for our limitations.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why we do this sometimes is because we fear failure. We fear this failure, not just starting something and being the best at it. It's an ego based, but failure is sometimes the most incredible experience that you can have. Like you said, Jay, you kept going until you hit a wall and you realize, okay, I need to go back and reassess the next step. And so as you're going along this journey, you're picking up information when information is necessary to be picked up. And it's even if you look at like the ancient mystery schools or even the texts of India, like the Yoga Sutras, for example, the third and fourth chapters of the Yoga Sutras, even though they're not censored, you can buy them and read them. It's commonly known that you don't get taught those sutras by a teacher for like 10 years because they need for you to be at a place of understanding to be able to take in the information. And so it's that evolution of consciousness. If you think that you have to have everything, know everything before you start a project, then you've actually capped yourself at being able to grow and expand. It's like, I come from a family of doctors. When a student graduates medical school and gets their board license, do they just, they have to go through residency. They have to go through all these experiences with other doctors supervising them before they're then handed the license to do more things by themselves and to get that specialist, right? So it's a constant evolution, and that evolution, that journey, that experience, that's what's fun. It's not the finish line that's fun. It's that pathway of actually taking action that is fun, at least in my experience.
It's that lack of certainty that makes it so worthwhile. And I think this is the bit that a lot of people are missing, because if you knew, I mean, everyone's heard this analogy, you wouldn't go into a film if you knew exactly what was going to happen. You wouldn't enjoy it in the same way. You wouldn't pick up a new book. The whole point about life is the fact that we don't know. And the fact that there's all these atrocities going on, you know, let's take Maui. It can be very overwhelming for people. And I completely get that, because we all want to help. And we all want to do it. And it can seem so overwhelming when you can't stop something like that. But I can go and rescue 3 guinea pigs and make a difference to that and change the vibration of the world. I know that could be to some people a very little example. But if we're waiting till we can change the world, we've got to do it one step at a time. And it's those little actions that we do each and every day that not only shift our vibration, but shift it from everyone and everything that we're interacting with. And it can be so powerful. And the 3 of us, when we said yes to certain opportunities, let's just take as an example that we all work together in the same Asea team. When we said yes to that, we were starting on it. We were thinking just for our own personal health journey. And since then, the people and the connections that have opened up to us, we couldn't possibly have known about. Now, every single person watching this will have one area of their life that they're not satisfied with, at least, whether it's their achieving their dreams, whether it's their health, whether it's their relationship, whether it's their wealth. And coming back to the quote about not picking up the next book until you've taken action on the book you've just read. If you just say, right, what's one area, just one, not all of it, not saving the world, not sorting every bit of corruption that's out there out. What's one thing that I can start working on today to change my reality? Then that domino effect will kick off for all of us.
You know, this it's when people look at themselves and they say, okay, well, this is going on, so let me fight for this. I know there's a lot of atrocities happening around, and I think that's just the world as it is. But the question a lot of times becomes is, do people even know what they're fighting for? A lot of times, or are they just doing it? It's like, you know, I would say one of the things is that to really consider is to start fighting for yourself first. Figure out what your superpower is, what you're here for. Try to figure that out. I mean, I think everybody just jumps on these bandwagons about a white hat or a black. I mean, I don't even know anybody that's seen a white hat or a black hat. I don't even know what they look like. Does anybody even know if they're real? I don't know. I'm not diminishing what people are saying, but what do they even look like? You see what I'm saying? It's like you fight for something that you don't really always know. And I'm just kind of using that as an analogy. And I think if people start to fight for themselves and really start to really put the energy into like, okay, well, who am I? What is my inherent value to the world? Catherine, you mentioned guinea pigs, and that's your
I've just seen your little dog jump off behind. So
there's 3 of them. There's 3 of them. I was like, yeah. Luigi, Lola, and Crystal. Yeah, there are mascots. But yeah, you know, I just think if people could start to take a look at that and have the courage to say, well, yeah, I get things are going on in the world. There's always going to be things going on in the world. We have to be sympathetic, empathic towards it. But yet we also can only make a difference when we start to figure out who the hell we are, you know, and what we are, what we're supposed to do. What can we really offer the world? Is us offering the world jumping in a protest with 1 million people? I don't know. Is it like, let me do this one thing and let me carve out that part of it, and then your own universe starts to do that and people start to see it. That's what's happening. I think if we start to take more of those kind of things where people get more courage about that, and the concept of failure, we should be applauding people that they've at least taken the risks to fail, if you would. Yeah. They're taking those steps. People shouldn't be embarrassed about these things. We're in a very different world. It's not like, oh, business didn't work out, or that didn't work out, a relationship didn't work out. These are things, at least people are taking steps. We should try to help shift our focus. So if our fellow soul brother and sister says, I'm going to do this, then root them on if they fail and say, look, step it up, get back up and do it again. Step back up and do it again, and don't judge them or anything like that, because every one of us goes through the same thing. So we don't have any right to judge or point the fingers and be like, oh, look at what happened to them. You know what I mean? You know, it's not right. We don't go through it, so we might as well acknowledge it and cherish it. And I think we acknowledge and cherish it, then I think it'll be a better existence for people.
It's that great quote. I'm paraphrasing it. It's like, it doesn't matter if you've fallen 7 times. What matters is if you've gotten back up 8 times, right? Like, it's that getting back up again and getting back up again. And some of the most successful people in our world that we look at have failed so many times, but they learn, instead of sitting in that place of pity party, they've taken, okay, what lessons have I learned from this experience? Let me recalibrate and let me change the ending, because I learned something. I took something of value from this experience. So now I know that wisdom doesn't come from getting everything right. Wisdom comes from fucking up. That's where that comes from, you know? And so I actually told that to my, my yoga class on Sunday morning, because you see that a lot in the yoga practice. People try to be perfect. And I'm like, you came here to mess up. Like, that's why you literally came to earth to mess up, because that's where your lessons, that's where your friction comes from. And you're right, as you're talking about that, Catherine, you know, there's that story that we hear often as kids about the starfish. You know, a huge hurricane comes and all these starfish get washed up on the beach. And this one man is going down the beach in the morning and picking up starfish and throwing it back into the ocean. This other guy walks up to that man and says, "What are you doing? You're one person. You're never going to get to all these starfish. They're going to die. You're not going to make a difference." And he picks up another starfish and throws it in the ocean. He goes, "Well, I just made a difference to that one."
Yeah.
You know, and so if that is rescuing a guinea pig, or if that is, you know, going and working, you know, a soup kitchen, just doing something or taking care. And I like what you say too, Jay. It's that whole airplane analogy of, you have to put your face mask on first before you can help, your oxygen mask before you can help somebody else, right? We can't martyr ourselves. We have to, and you're right. I'm like, I don't actually believe that there are white hats. I think we are the white hats, metaphorically. I think we are the ones that are here to save ourselves. And when you look at spirituality, which I think this is what all this is leading to anyway, that's just my opinion. When you start to take control of your life and start to really take action, and you start to seek out opportunities to help you propel forward, and you start then changing your company with other people like Catherine and Jay, who are in that same mindset of wanting to propel forward in their life, all of a sudden, vibrationally, everything around you starts to shift, because like attracts like, if that makes sense. So the world around you changes. So all of a sudden, if we all did that collectively as a globe, if we all did that, these atrocities, these bad guys, these black hats, if you will, wouldn't have room to exist here anyway.
Yeah, and it's so many pedantics about semantics. You know, if we sat here and we had a conversation with every audience listener, everyone's definition of what the white hats are and the black hats would be different, because we're all seeing it through our lens. We've all got different moral standards. We've all got different belief systems. And the whole point is, it needs so many different personalities to work in this world. You know, we've spoken about before, 3 of us, you know, I wouldn't be the person that you would send into the tunnels to rescue people, but I can go in and rescue a wild animal from anywhere, sort of thing. We've all got things we're good at, and we've all got things we're not good at. If you want someone to parachute out of a helicopter and save someone in the sea, don't ask me. I'm not going to be any good. You know, that is not my skill in this lifetime. So appreciating that everyone's got their point. But when we're having a lot of these conversations anyway, we're not even on the same page, because we're all listening to it from our level of understanding, from our lens. And actually, it can be a real excuse to paralyze from action. So another quote that I heard, which I just thought was just summed it up perfectly, is procrastination takes a lot of energy, and our brains basically use more energy than any other organ in our body. And we talk in the spiritual world, and anyone who wants to progress through their lives, we talk about everything is energy, and energy can't be created or destroyed, just transmuted. So you can waste, and I'm one of these people, believe me, I've done this for years, waste a lot of energy worrying about things. But imagine, instead of saying, right, I'm going to take a week to make a certain decision, I'm going to take a day, suddenly you're moving forward 7 times quicker in your life. And if you take that decision and sliding doors, and you find that actually this isn't working out for me, no big deal. Course correct, make a different decision the next day, because everything around you is changing all the time. So we can get so hung up on, I wonder what is, and wasting our energy on looking back, when actually if we just made a decision to try something different, because if we're unhappy about any area of our life, and I honestly think there's so few people that haven't got something in their lives they want to upgrade, then just make a different choice. Try something different with no attachment to what the ultimate outcome is.
I think the great. Go ahead, Brice.
I was going to say, I think there's a question as you're saying that, Catherine. I was thinking about the psychology of human beings. And I don't know if I said this on our show, Jay, or another show, but when we think about, I'm going to start my diet on Monday, or I'm going to do this tomorrow, we're thinking about ourselves in the future, which is not actually us because we live in the now. And so it's like a character in a movie. And as you're saying that, Catherine, something popped into my head, and the word disassociation. And so is it possible that a lot of people, good-hearted people, are getting swept away in this fantasy world of, what we want to call the white hats, the black hats, because it's a way to think about a future where they're going to get all this money from Nasara, have these med beds, and almost like a character in a movie, because it takes them away from any pain they're experiencing in the now. And you're right, Catherine, because I have anxiety. I am an overthinker. There are definitely, we all have those like phone calls we have to make that we don't want to make. We all have those emails we have to send that we don't want to send, and so I understand what you're saying, because I will work myself up over it, and then I'll make the phone call and I'll feel such relief when it's over, and it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. And I feel free, and I'm like, why didn't I do this 3 days ago? And so what I've started doing, because I recognize with my practice of self-awareness, I recognize that I do this. And so I've started to schedule in things so that it's on my schedule. And because I am OCD, I need to check that sucker off. So I've used my anxiety as a way to like take action to check that thing off. And so when you start to, so I'm asking the audience, like, if that's something you've done, there's no harm in that, but are you disassociating because there is something in your life that's painful? It's like I always say, people who are so obsessed with past lives. Yeah, I believe we've lived past lives and they're interesting, but so many people are so obsessed with it. I want to ask, okay, well, what is it about this life now that you're running from? You can live in a fantasy world of who you were in the past. And so if that's something somebody's watching right now, and that's something you find yourself doing, like you're projecting all your hopes and your desires for the future on some time when you're going to get all this money from the government and you're going to have a med bed, and if that's something you're doing, because there's no evidence that any of this is actually going to happen. So if that's something you're doing, are you disassociating? And if that might be the case, then that's where you start to take action. That's where you start to make that awareness to figure out what it is you're trying to avoid in the here now moment. And it is true. It's like exercising. How many people hate, like most people have a love-hate relationship with working out, right? They hate it when they're doing it, but they love it when they're done. You're so glad you did it when you're done. So if you actually take that action, it might be uncomfortable in that moment, but your whole life is going to start to change because of it.
Yeah, it totally is. And, like I want to, Catherine, like what you were saying earlier about, you're not the person to go into the tunnels. And I think the greatest gift we can give each other or ourselves is our ability to resolve and say, I'm not that person. I am this person. And claiming that, I think, is an amazing thing. I really do. I mean, I know when I started in this whole internet thing and looking for, after we sold our linear businesses, if you would, trying to figure out what to do on the internet, we realized I met a lot of people and people would reach out for advice. And then I learned this concept of, like, all of a sudden I heard this phrase for the first time ever in my life of a life coach. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? And can you make money at it? Right. And so I was like, well, let me give that a go. And after about 2 of them, I figured I could do really well with this. I knew a lot of people. And after 2 sessions, I was like, that's not me. I'm not that guy. I can't, I just can't connect with that. So, I mean, and I say that in a way for, I think when people do things, don't force yourself to do things, because try to find the things that you're connected with. And it may, just because it feels like not everybody's always has to be the ultimate humanitarian from the concept of a Mother Teresa kind of thing. Not everybody has to be that way. And I think a lot of people have to realize that that's not necessarily everybody's role in this life. I mean, there's certain people that do certain things. It's a machine, that makes the whole world go around. So I think when people can start to find resolve in who they are, what they say, it's like, don't do stuff just to do it, just because you feel like it's there. If that's not your thing, then just don't do it. Don't feel bad about it. Do what you are good. Play your part, whatever that part may be, but find your part on that. I think people would just be better by being true to themselves, and they'll have a better existence as a result of it. They'll start to do it, but it does take the price, like what you were saying. You just kind of like, sometimes you got to make those tough choices and cut the ties, social media wise, whatever, and that are not vibrationally matching. I mean, there's going to be a point in time where one thing that's going to happen to everything is that even though we get younger longer, we live younger longer because of what we do, but in theory, people are their chronological ages are growing up. There's going to be a time where you're going to wake up one day and be like, woulda, shoulda, coulda, right? And you don't want to do that, is what I'm saying to you. We're trying to help from experience, is that if you can have the foresight and not where you can still take whatever we got time-wise, however long the time is in this planet, and enjoy the hell out of it. And don't wait too long before it's like, I should have done that. I should have tried this, or I should have done this. I mean, take those actions now. Nobody's if people are judged, and if you can really have faith in the fact that you're the master of all you see, and if you really can realize that, then you'll be the master of the people that cheer you on versus criticizing you, because it's a different world. And know that there's a world out there where people will cheer you on. And if you can realize that, and hopefully that in and of itself can open up someone's eyes and say, look, maybe I can take a step. Maybe I don't have to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I don't want anybody to know that I didn't do it. I didn't do right, or I don't want anybody to know I'm doing this, but I'll only let them know if I succeed, but I'm not going to let them know if I fail. You got to let them know, go all in. It's a time to do that. I think that people, if they will have the courage to do that, align with people, and people, if they don't align with you, wish them well for the moment on life, however long that is, and find someone that will align with you. That's what that's what we do.
I love it. And I think also, everyone listening to this, we're not trying to tell anyone what to do, how to listen to, or anything apart from learning to listen to ourselves. Each and every one of us will know, in my family, we can all watch the same film and all have completely different experiences of it. One of us will love it. One of us will hate it. One of us will think it's ridiculous. One will think there was a really deep message in it. One actor might annoy me and my husband might love them, sort of thing. And that's the whole point. It's absolutely fine, because all of our lessons from watching that film. So I absolutely applaud everyone who's out there doing anything, spreading messages. But the difference is when does it become an obsession for you and stop you living your life? So, for example, if it stops you walking your dogs, cooking healthy meals, getting yourself healthy, whatever that means for you, whether it's doing your vegetable garden or going to the gym or going for a run or doing yoga, it doesn't matter, whatever it is for you. Brice, when you did your challenge, the challenges that you've run, there were suggestions for exercise, but it was also, well, if you don't want to do that one, do something that you're drawn to. And I think it's really helpful. We all like a bit of escapism, and some of us might want to watch something on TV. Some might want to go to the pub with a friend, but you don't stay in that place. There has to be balance in your life. And I think what we're seeing a lot of, and I think a lot of us can identify with, because I think we've all been there, is actually if you're spending all day listening to YouTube and not doing something to improve your own life, then that's as much as a program as anything else that we've been programmed with.
As you're saying that, as you both were talking, I kept thinking, okay, here's the thing. Are you really living? Yeah. Ask yourself that. When you're talking about TV, and I was sitting here, I posted this on my esoteric account yesterday because I thought it was hysterical. You think you know stress? When I grew up, if you missed a TV show, you just missed it forever. Yeah. And so you think about that when we were kids, we didn't have DVR. We didn't have, we weren't, even though we had television, we had TV shows, we had Saturday morning cartoons. We didn't live our lives by that media. Because if you missed the TV show, you missed it. That was it. Kept the rerun in the summertime. And so now, though, we have this incredible opportunity to constantly be watching something, to constantly be entertained. And absolutely, I love reality TV show. That's not a secret. That's my brain candy. That's when I turn myself off, is just to watch some good old reality stars cheating on each other. That's my junk food, right? But I don't do that all day. I live my life. And you're right, Catherine, when we're going outside, breathing the fresh air, walking our dogs, cooking meals with our loved ones. I'll never forget when all these conspiracies started coming out about musicians. And I'm not denying that some of these conspiracies aren't correct. I'm not saying that. But so many people started like stopped listening to all these bands. And it reminded me a lot of like fundamentalism in Christianity. And I'm very lucky that even though I grew up in a conservative Christian home, my parents were very secular in the sense that they had all the records. We listened to the Rolling Stones. We listened to, and for me, and I've said this on my channel, like, put that music back on, listen to, because you're not doing those things, but that joy that you experience, that perception, when I hear Give Me Shelter from the Rolling Stones, I'm immediately taken back to my childhood where my sister and I would be on our parents' lake house on the dock with the CD player, listening to music and dancing. So for me, that takes me back to an experience that I had as a child that was living. It's not, so are people cutting themselves off from so much stuff and they're actually not experiencing what they came here to experience, which is to be alive? I mean, Alan Watts said it best. Somebody asked Alan Watts the age-old question, why are we here? Why did we come here? And he said the answer is simple. You're here to be alive.
Absolutely. And when I spoke to John Jose Ruiz, fantastic shaman who's wrote with his dad, you know, the 4 agreements and the 5th agreement, which is still my go-to whenever I need a bit of a kick up the backside. That's still where I go. And he said, I said to him, what do you think the purpose of humans are? And he said to enjoy this life. Doesn't mean, and you can enjoy your life and still have bad days. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it, right? That's the contrast.
And, you know, my really good friend, Angelica Allen, you know, she's really young mum, and she's already been through stage 4 bowel cancer and, touch wood, healed herself. And you can have bad times and come out amazingly. Thank goodness I really learned so much for that. My life is now so much more worthwhile than the trajectory I was on before that. So whatever our starting page is, I'm not pretending it's not really horrific at the moment. I mean, no one can deny, you know, if anyone's in Maui at the moment or knows people, we're not denying that really awful things happen at all.
Right.
But actually, me sitting there just being really miserable all day because of that isn't helping anyone at all, especially the collective energy. So what I can do is, if I'm concerned, is find somewhere, how can I help constructively?
And
imagine like if we knew, like, just like this, Brice, you and I spoke about this a bunch too, is like, imagine if we looked at this life as just a complete video game.
Yes.
Seriously. Because I just can't think of another option, the way to look at it, because nobody's proven anything else. They just haven't. They just haven't. Other than the books we have to read and everything like that, nobody really has given us any type of visual affirmation of how to live, how to navigate, other than what we learn on ourselves, and we follow each other. The only way we're learning is we just continually follow each other. But imagine if you took on the thought process of, like, something happened, whether it be personal, business, and you kind of got knocked down, but you looked at it very pragmatically as like, okay, this is that's part of the game. I just had to think, I got this thing, now let me try to go to this level, let me get up and go it again. I mean, the beauty of it is we get to do it again, get up and go again. You know, we get to do it again, we get to try again. We're not knocked down forever, you know. We're not, or as far as our version of whatever is, but or forever is, but we're not knocked down. So I think when people will continue to just go and not look at things like, well, that one time wasn't there, look at it as like, you know, we're in, I know people use the word simulation. It kind of makes us feel like we are the AI, but I don't mean it like that. But I'm just trying to put it in perspective, is that if you look at it as like, you know, this was what happens, we knock down, that's the fun of the ride, I think. I mean, so what I'm seeing as I experience life like that is I'm seeing it play out now. So this is where manifestation comes in, because now it's like I'm going, okay, and I'm looking at it very differently. So if I get knocked down, I don't look at it as like, oh no, what happened? Oh my God, let me crawl under my sheets for a month. You know what I mean? Let me cry and do everything like that. I'm like, all right, would that just happen? Think for a second, look, get your downloads and go. Do it again. Think and go, think and go. And you just keep going, and then you get stronger. You know, it's a discipline you take on. But if you overthink every time something, or if one overthinks every time something doesn't happen in your favor, it starts to move you back and further and further and further back. And then it takes longer and longer and longer to get to where even back to the point you were, where if you take a look and whatever happened, stay in that moment, assess it for a second, and then go from it. Because you'll notice that you'll start to get more downloads come in that moment, in that present, because it'll keep you in the present. And that's the whole thing, is keeping in that vibration of that moment. So, you can receive those downloads, because you wander too far off to the front, to the back, and like you said, Brice, past lives, that's great. I may have been Julius Caesar, but what is that doing for me now? You know what I mean? It's fine, whatever, right? But what is it doing for me now? And that's really where people need to think about, is that, these things, if you want to have, and I guess this only applies for people who want a better life. If people are happy where they're at, bless you, then come on and tell us some cool tips, you know what I mean? But I think this applies for people who are like, why isn't life like this? Why does life suck? Or why this? I think if you look at it differently, and I understand, and everything that ever happens in life in some capacity, some horrible things, I can assure you is going to happen to all of us at some point. A death of a family member, a loved one, a surprise that happens that we didn't expect. And all these things are just going to, it's just what it is. So, if we understand that these things are at some point going to happen in some infinite design, and how we react to it is going to be the key of this whole equation. Not so much that it happened, because it is going to happen. It's just how we brace ourselves to react to it, not be in fear of it. Just know it happens. When it does happen, pragmatically look at it, stay in that minute, and then go from there. And I believe that's where the universe starts to. My experience is that's where the universe starts to continue to show you other ways, brings you up to levels of the video games, if you would.
And that's the whole philosophy that our lives, our natural lives, are the Shakti. It's the creation of our soul, for our soul to come here to know itself and to experience. Like the Emerald Tablets, Thoth says it so beautifully. You only know life because you know death. When you're just in soul form, you don't know life because you don't know death. But when you're in a body, you know the juxtaposition. So you go through the pain. Only because you know pain do you know joy. And it's interesting, as you're saying this, Jay, Catherine and I have had some remarkable opportunities to interview a lot of cult survivors. And we were just talking off camera about the Scientologists, how they literally leave with nothing and they bounce back and they take action. And I was thinking, last week or a week before last, I'm going on his channel next week, I interviewed Davy Jackson who was a survivor of the IBLP cult, the Duggar family, the Shiny Happy People on Amazon. And he explained how he got sent to this compound, this basically abuse compound prison at 16 because he got a girlfriend. And he had done something that put him in solitary confinement. In this solitary confinement situation, he was in this hotel room with nothing, no TV, no radio, but a Bible, a bed, and a bathroom. And someone would bring him food once a day. And so anytime that would really break someone. And he was in there for 7 days. But what I thought was fantastic, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, you guys should watch the interview or go to his channel, is in that moment, he had what we call in Sanskrit a pratibha moment, which is a flash of illumination. In that moment, he could have decided, he could have gone one or two ways. He could have been totally broken by this cult and gone on to be in the cult and have children in the cult, or he took the other path where he realized in that moment, I'm going to get out of here, I'm going to play the game, and then I'm going to leave. And I'm going to start my life over again. And now at his age now, he's able to help people. He's a comedian now. He helps people. And that is what, as we were talking earlier, I pulled up, I Googled it. Most of the Americans will know the Robert Frost poem, Two Paths. I don't know if it's studied in other countries, but it's the road not taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. Be one traveler long I stood, and looked down as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing there, had warmed them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, and leaves no steps had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads onto the way, I doubt if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one last traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And that always makes me emotional because he's saying he's looking at two paths. And there's one path that's obviously been traveled by many people. It's grassy, it's lush, but you can see that many people had traveled it. But there's this other path over here that no one's traveled on, and it's got overgrowth. And he's saying, I decided to take that path because what is there? I know this one. I can see this one. Everyone's done this one, but I was the brave one to take that path, to take the action, to change. You were saying earlier, Jay, we see this a lot. I think so many people, especially in like upper middle class environments, where people feel that they have to continue in the family business. They feel they have to become the accountant. They have to become the doctor. They have to do this. They have to be a lawyer like their parents. And even though that treaded path obviously brings prosperity to people, it might not necessarily bring happiness, because it's dulling out that life to live, to be who you really are, to take that path less traveled by, because that is the expression of your soul. That is the interesting moment to really be alive, to not disassociate and just walk through life like a zombie doing what you're supposed to do, but take the action to actually be alive. And that would be what I would ask people. Are you really alive right now?
Right.
Are you really experiencing the sweet nectar through the pain, the heartbreak? Listen, the more your heart breaks, the more the light can shine through, right? So even when you're right, Jay, I had a high school teacher that used to tell us all the time, whenever someone was upset, she would just go, no one gets out of this world alive. No one gets out of this world alive. We're all, from cradle to grave, we all have the same. So what are you going to make? You can't take your money with you. You can't take your degrees with you. You can't take any of that with you. So you know, you might as well enjoy the ride while you're here. And with the money thing, like we talked about, Jay, Alan Watts talked about this as well. If you have a hobby, there's something you really like to do, the more you learn how to do it, the more you work on it, take action to it, you eventually become a master. And at that point, the money starts to come in anyway, because you've mastered your craft, right?
Totally. I mean, you know, where we got 90 years, 100 years in today's with modern medicines and stuff like that. I mean, you know, so you know that. So why not enjoy it is a better thing to do. And like you said, just really just if you find the things you love. I think, Brice, did you say it is like you just don't, it's not like you're working, or I don't know the exact phrase.
If you my grandfather used to say that if you do what you like to do, you will never work a day in your life.
That one right there.
Yeah.
But I think that's so true, though. You do what you like to do. I mean, Catherine, you and I mean, we talk a lot about this whole network marketing business that we're in and things like that. But our conversations go beyond that. It's about like, you know what? Wouldn't it be great to have people reimagine how this is done? It's a different purpose. It's not so much about saying, hey, look at my blue bottle. I'm one of 80,000 people that's got another blue bottle or another white tube. It's not about that. It's like looking at a concept, a construct that is utilized here in this world and say, well, you know, again, you know, look, I mean, everything's kind of lined up. You know, you have a lot of people taking one path, Brice, like there's just a ton of them taking one path, and there's this wide open field here that nobody's taken. And you know, maybe it's time to start to look at those kind of fields a little closer. See, like it's almost like it's like, look where everybody else is going and find the other way. Go the other
and find your way. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to the conversation I had with Don Jose Ruiz, and we were talking about spirit animals and what you're drawn to. And it's for everyone. Again, it's no secret that I'm obsessed with cats and monkeys, actually. And guinea pigs, don't worry, guinea pigs, but cats and monkeys. And what do they say? Curiosity killed the cats. And that's my main character trait, is curiosity. I try so many different things and I'm not attached whether I like them or not. I'm just very good at making quick decisions. If I don't, tried that, didn't work for me, and then on to the next one. But with that excitement that a cat does, where it's always looking for the next thing and everything. And I think, you know, we've all got different personality traits, and play to your personality and what gives you the joy, because what gives me joy is probably very different to what gives you two joy. And I think it's just really important to remember that and really go for it, because everyone watching here, you know, they are the people that made different decisions in the pandemic. They are the people that took those brave decisions to actually stand up for their rights. It's amazing. It never ceases to amaze me to see what people leave in the comments and what they have done and what choices they have done. And so this is just a reminder to everyone to say, you're on track. Just don't let people pull you off track again. Go and do what feels right for you. And the biggest thing that's made the difference for me is putting really strong boundaries in place by spending my time with people that want the best for everyone, not just for themselves. And when you drop the people that are always going to see the negative of people, and I don't mean in a horrible way, but just make choices not to spend too much time with those people, then everything starts shifting. Because if you don't want the best for others, then you're never going to get it for yourself.
That's so true. You have to celebrate. What an interesting concept, celebrating someone else's success. Wow.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Brilliant if we did that more.
Wow. I mean, really, because that's how we're all learning. And I wish more people would really wrap their head. This is exactly how we learn when we can glorify that. I mean, imagine having a news channel that's all about not what's going wrong in the world, but having everybody, this was how everybody's successful today. Let's look at success stories today. Let's look at someone that graduated top of their class today. Let's look at not someone who got, you know, all this happened or arrested or this or everything like that. Imagine having that kind of world. And that world's doable. It's just chosen not to do it. You know what I mean? With technology, people can talk about celebrating these successes. And it seems so, people think about, oh, well, that's a lot of airy fairy and love and lighting. No, it's not. It's pragmatic, because it's if you start talking about it, then you start to break the pattern of things that do there. If you sit there and spend all the time, you know, looking at things, we haven't watched the news. You know, I tell you, we live in Florida, and this is like hurricane central, where we're now in southern Florida, which is even more hurricanes. And we still have friends that call us and they're like, are you guys okay? And we're like, okay, from what? They're like, there's a hurricane. I'm like, oh, is there now? We don't even know when there's hurricanes coming our way. We don't watch the news. We just have chosen not to take up that vibration. We'll figure if something is catastrophically going to happen, someone will knock on our door.
Yeah.
And that's, you know what I mean? I don't need to sit there and spend 9 hours watching slowly real time our hurricanes coming from Bahamas over to Florida, and we'll be here in 98.6 hours and at 10.9 cat. You know what I mean? What is that going to serve? Right. Yeah. So I could be more productive doing that. And all it does is shut down things. It gives, next thing you know, people are there. So I think people just start to put them things in check, take the information, but release it or keep it. If you feel like it's going to be of value to you in that minute, hang on to it like hell. Yeah. If you feel like it's not serving you in that particular minute, let it go for an hour, shelf it, and keep going. You know, it's a discipline that I can share from experience, is that will help, you know, just help you get through and navigate things. And you know, really, I personally feel start to see the bliss that life has to offer, because it's an amazing place. I don't think there's anything to escape from.
No, it's beautiful.
Where are we going to go?
My biggest success today is it's pissing down with rain here, and I managed to collect a load of glass and dandelion leaves for the guinea pigs before it started raining. So celebrate your own successes, however big or small, because now I can give that to them. But yeah, I think you've got to celebrate yourself first. Celebrate yourself. You know, did you make a nice cup of tea this morning? Did you say something nice to someone? Did you get up on time? Did you do your exercise this morning?
I was about to say, yeah.
If you
applaud yourself if you did that.
Yeah, just applaud yourself. And when you start applauding yourself, you'll want the best for everyone else, because I do get it. We've all been awoken, and we say the last 3 years. For some people, it's been the last 30 years. Some people, it's been the last year. It doesn't matter how long it is. It's not the length of time that matters. And so we've like suddenly, oh my God, all these things that so much we've forgotten sometimes to see the best in world. And we see this with modern culture a lot. We build people up, whether it's a sports star. Now all sports stars are wrong. No, I think sports stars are amazing. They're some of the most driven, fittest. When there's a tiger chasing you, those sports stars are going to get away a lot faster than we are.
Right,
They've got the mental resilience. So I'm just putting that as an example. Let's start celebrating people that are really going all in, and whatever area of life it might be a chef, it might be a nursery school teacher, it might be a vet, it might be the person who works at your local tea shop that always says something nice to you when you go in. And when you go in and look for the good, oh my God, we're all going to change so much better. When we say nice things to other people, people are going to pick that vibration up in us, and what you give comes back.
100%.
And I will say, I said this on Sunday morning. I had a student that came in and he was like really hungover, and he was apologizing to me. He was going to take the class, but he was hungover. He had gone out the night before, got in really late. And I looked at him and I said, and I say this to all my students when they come in and try to apologize for being a little hungover for class. And I just said, well, did you have fun last night? And he said, yes. And I said, well, that's all that matters. You had fun in that moment. You don't go out every night. In that moment, you went out and you were in celebration with your friends. You were probably laughing your ass off, having a couple of drinks with friends, really enjoying their company. That's the point of life. Your practice supports your life. It's not the other way around. And it's funny you mentioned hurricanes, Jay. There's a couple accounts that I follow that are hysterical. One is a Southern Person account, and this guy showed a video of he was sleeping, and it was like hurricane, sleeping, tornado, sleeping, fan goes off, wakes up, because it's so hot. When the fan goes off, we wake up. But when there's a tornado or a hurricane, we just sleep through it, And there's another, I will say, I sent this to Catherine. Speaking of wild animals, there is a comedian. His Instagram is White Lady Comedy. He's a Black guy, and he is so funny because he is determined that the superpower of white women is wild animals. Yeah. And he has all these clips of white women just going and picking up a hunt. He's like, oh, little baby, like saving these video of this woman rescued a wolf. She thought it was a dog. She brought this wild wolf into her house because she thought it was, and he's like, what? He was like, white women, if I had my like cabinet and if I was president, I would hire a bunch of white women because they can handle wild animals. They can handle anything. And so it's an hysterical.
It's hysterical.
That's something that makes me happy. I post that a lot on my Instagram stories. People are funny. And in this world where we're seeing so much atrocity, why not focus on the comedy? Because people are freaking funny. They're funny. And the one that he shared of a little white girl, she found a raccoon? Yes. And she was crying, holding the raccoon. And the dad was like, we have to put it down. We have to leave it. It's a wild animal. And she was like, no, he's my friend.
Yeah. It's energy, right? They pick up on that. I mean, I tell you, it's like if we're spirits having a human experience, people say, I mean, that seems to be pretty logical to me. I mean, I as I feel like we're possibly into some, I think the other thing that I think where people can start to have peace and comfort in, from my experience, is I know a lot of people, and look, it's just not about discrediting anyone's faith, because maybe they see it, or their belief systems, because maybe that's how they see it, and that's good, and whatever gets you through the day. I don't necessarily subscribe that 92.3% of the population has to be evolved before we all can do good. You know what I mean? I think that it's an inside job, one by one by one. And I think that if you are sitting there being like, there's only 10% more to go, and once 10% goes, then I'll do my part. Yeah, that's not something that you may want to try to not really hang on to that one. You know what I mean? Nobody knows his exact percentage, if there even is one. Okay, because I don't know how anybody could do that. Seriously, come on.
Changes all the time. Whoever you listen to,
it changes exactly all the time.
What percentage are in the golden age, and you're just like, it's just all completely made up. And if you believe it, that's absolutely fine. But seriously, come on. And I think just let us know what works for you below. I'd really love people to share what works for you, what motivates you, what action are you taking today, what book did you read last, and what action are you going to take from it, or what film did you watch, or what conversation did you have, or what enlightenment did you get from your meditation or your walk in nature. Whatever it is, what inspiration has come to you recently, and what action are you going to take from it? Because I learn the best things from seeing what other people just triggers it off for you, and you're like, oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I would love to see, if it's okay, Catherine, because I know this is going on your channel. I want to know from our audience member, what part of your day do you feel the most alive?
Yeah.
Keep it G-rated. I know there's going to be some people that might put some R-rated stuff down there. Keep it G. Or what is it something every day that you look forward to? What is it something that maybe it's eating your pancake in the morning or taking an Epsom salt bath. What is something that you really enjoy that experience? And I want to hear that too from you guys. Where do you really feel alive?
It would be good to hear from people like what they feel. From my perspective is, maybe if you have a money block, why? Why do you have a money block? What's your association with money? How do you perceive it? It'd be good to see that. What do you want more? What holds you back? I mean, really, let's take a look at. It'd be nice and see if we could just kind of get some insight from, your people that just, what we could do to help, right? Maybe help.
That would be an awesome follow-up because I will say, guys, that's an awesome question, Jay, because money blocks come from a root chakra issue, which is Muladhara, which is your right to be here. So any money blocks come from deeply from your wounds of not feeling like you deserve to be on this earth. And so that's it. That could open us up to an even bigger conversation where we can pull even more specialists in on this, because that's a great question, Jay.
It's a great one. And let's leave it at that. Let us know in the comments below all the other things, anything else you want to share. I absolutely love all the practical tips. I've had so many over the last year. It's fantastic from the listeners. But let us know, what are your money blocks, and would you like us to talk about that next time? Thank you so much, you guys. I could talk to you, and we do talk all the time, and it's just so uplifting for me. It's just getting in there and just getting into the vibe and saying, what's possible? Let's create and see what happens. Thank you everyone who's listened for this week. This week's on my show. Next week the coffee chat will be back on Esoteric Atlanta, so do go and have a look on there. And most importantly, have the most amazing day, everyone. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Brice.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. My goal is to inspire as many people as I can to live their best lives, to stay curious, and to raise their consciousness and that of the collective. So to do this, I need to reach as many people as possible, and this needs your help. If you feel drawn, would you be willing to share your favourite episode with 5 different people? This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. If you feel drawn to do that, I will be very, very grateful. All the links and discount codes where applicable for all the products that I support are on my 2 websites, catherineedwards.life and catherineedwardsacademy.com. All of the products are personally tried and tested by me, my family, and my clients. And finally, please do press the follow or subscribe button, depending which platform you're listening on. And above all, stay curious and stay free.